Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on over to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio. I hope you guys are having a good day. If this is your first time stopping on the channel, let me tell you what you're about to get. You're about to get some really, some of it's going to be biased, some of it's going to be unbiased, but the biased information that you're going to get is going to be based on facts. So you'll know when that's an opinion. When I give you actual factual information, you're going to know actual factual information. And I'm going to actually be tackling a pretty rough topic today. Number one, we're going to go over what's happening with this headline. We're going to talk about this Russian ship and several other things because it's kind of a big pain in the butt. Before we do that, I'm going to wait on some people to slowly roll in here. And as those folks are slowly rolling in here, I got some videos queued up that are going to keep you pretty much entertained as we go about doing it. First things first, I'm just going to take you guys over to, I don't know, the eastern part of Ukraine real quick. And you're about to watch a Russian drone fail to knock out a disabled vehicle, which why they would target a disabled vehicle already is beyond me. Oh, the music on it though. Na suka, na suka. Seriously, it's like, is this practice for them? Or are they just trying to disable this vehicle further? I don't get it. The thing looks like it's pretty much knocked out of commission. It's got a lot of freaking, look at the tires on that thing. It's freaking wasted. But what you do notice is inside of the vehicle, once it gets up here and over to the top, what you do end up noticing is you look in there and you can actually see people have got supplies and things like that in there. But why they would go after that, that's freaking stupid, it's a waste of time. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What's up? Ears warning. Wah. Yeah, welcome up. What the hell were they thinking going after that vehicle, right? That's pretty dumb to me. And then, of course, I haven't been crapping on the Palestinian press for a while. And I think maybe this is one of those times where I just need to also crap on the Palestinian press because I don't know. It's been a hot minute. So let's do that real quick as well. Let me join you guys for this little short video. I think you're going to enjoy this quite a bit. This kid right here says that the Palestinians are starving. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but he's not exactly hungry.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نقدم إليكم آخر الأنباء والتطورات في قطاع غزة. نبدأها الآن في القاطع الشمالي حيث تقوم قوات الاحتلال بطباق حصارها الظالم على الظالم.
A major famine. Now, let's talk for a hot minute about why that siege exists inside of Gaza. And I haven't been talking about this for a while. The entire population over there supports a mass genocide. The entire population over there voted in a group of people that wants to see the complete and total annihilation of Israel. And if not the complete and total annihilation of Israel, well, I know for dang sure, and I mean for dang sure, that they at least want to take over Israel and put it under Sharia law. And that would be pretty much horrible for every single person living in there. And the reason that siege exists is because Israel doesn't owe Gaza anything. Nothing at all. As a matter of fact, I am unaware of an international law that would require them to send one electron, one drop of water, one parcel of food across the border to support a population that doesn't belong to them. Explain that to me. That'd be like forcing the United States of America to give food to Mexico, to give water to Mexico, to give electricity to Mexico after they attacked us, after they killed 1,200 of our people, where they're still holding them hostage. No, fat kid, I'm sorry. That's not how this works. But let's keep going on. Oh, right. Major famine. There's a major famine in Gaza, but it's okay. He's wearing a press vest. He's got his glasses on that are perfectly clean. He's got a really nice haircut, and he looks rather plump for having been starved for the last freaking 15 plus months or whatever the heck it's been now.
مما أدى إلى حدوث مجاعات كبيرة فقد اضطر الناس إلى طحن أعلاف الحيوانات ليصد.
You had to slaughter animals? No way. Not animals like everybody else. You know what I had for breakfast this morning, kid? An animal.
رمق جوعهم. وأما بالنسبة للوسطى تشهد تغول لقوات الاحتلال لمخيم النصيرات والإبراج وتحليق.
Wait a minute, they're infiltrating into Gaza? Why would they do that, child? Is it maybe because your parents are holding a bunch of people hostage?
لطائرات الاستطلاع والحربي وقيام طائرات القوات كابتر بإطلاق.
Anyone who moves. Really, maybe it's because they were warned beforehand not to be there and they chose to stay.
الله على كل من يتحرك. وأخيرا القاطع الجنوبي، تشهد الخان يونس على تغول قوات العدو، فلم تبقى حجر على حجر إلا ودمره وحركه.
There's no stone left to be moved but to destroy it. Oh, poor sucker.
قيام بالمجازر المروعة بحق الأطفال والنساء والشيوخ. وأخيرا
Oh, yeah, it's just children, women, and old people. That's what they're after. Israel's just going after children, women, and old people. And you can tell, I don't know if you guys know this or not, this is probably one of the kids that was shot in the head by a sniper who's now resurrected. I just throwing that out there.
بعيدة عن كل المناطق، فهي الأخرى لا تفارقها طائرات الاستطلاع والإثباتكوبتر ولا الطائرات الحربية التي تنفذ غارات.
They're not being lifted from all the areas because you idiots keep setting up rockets to shoot at Israel. And so to break this down, child, because I know you're kind of young, but to break this down for you, the way it works is, you see, when you set up something that's designed to kill innocent people and launch it somewhere else, those people have a right to fly those airplanes overhead and put a bomb on it, even if it's in the middle of your tent city, even though you love that because it gives you propaganda to go and put on the internet and freaking rage on people. Oh, Rafah, I'm glad you brought up the city named Rafah. Last time I checked, there was a lot of hostages that were rescued from Rafah. Last time I checked, there was 4 hostages that got shot to death in a tunnel system inside of Rafah. So thank you for reminding me about Rafah. Oh, he's a reporter now. Oh, thank God. I had no idea he was a reporter. I mean, maybe they're running out of enough adult reporters because they're busy taking hostages and the IDF's gone in there and schwacked a couple of them, and it just kind of upsets them and it gets back at them from time to time. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just what's going on. Listen, I am going to move into this next segment, which, last night I had talked and I had told you guys that over here. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's so happy to see you. I'm sorry. Sometimes you're in a good mood and you just feel like trolling the trolls. And that's where I was at this morning when I opened it up. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see you guys. I hope you're excited to get these 9 a.m. streams back on track. I know I am. I freaking love it. And if this is your first time, please like and subscribe to the channel. Do it, because it is going to be a good time. I can crap on Gaza. I can crap on Trump. I can crap on JD Vance. I can crap on Ukraine. I can crap on Russia. Whoever it is that does wrong, I will do that, and I will tell you where it's at. And a lot of people are going to be upset about it, but that's okay. That's okay, because we're here for truth. That's what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen. We're just simply here for truth, all right? And yes, maybe I am a little bit biased. I said you're going to get some bias. That's an example of bias. I don't like terrorism. I don't like people who are lying to the public. And if they're going to sit there and they're going to lie to your face, I'm just going to call them out for their hypocrisy. Bo Williams coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you, Bo. Before I get going today, as everybody's just kind of in here, I wanted to address something. Somebody had sent me a message. And you guys being true supporters and everything else, I take the messages, believe it or not. You guys send me messages, I take them and I read them and I take it to heart. And I wanted to read you this message. Somebody wrote me at literally 1 a.m. Last night, and I want to take that message. I want to kind of read it to you guys, and I want to address it. This person says, I am just going to spell this out. Here I am speaking the truth from my perspective. I am a 2 times Iraq vet that was at BIOP, my first deployment in 2004, and FOB Justice my second year. There was an ODA at Justice, and we worked with, and I have a funny story about them at some point. My perspective is that we have 36 trillion in debt, and I am a 3 times Trump voter at this point. Me too. Congratulations. We have given a lot to Ukraine, but people like me voted to see Trump try to end the war and sending them tens of billions every few months. We aren't just supporting their war effort, we're also effectively funding their internal government functions with cash and people like me who are fiscally concerned to see this as a major issue. I don't disagree with you here. How can we support Doge cutting a lot of funding, but why is there supposed to be this huge carve out for Ukraine? I can address that for you, friend. And this is where people get kind of upset because, again, I can say I voted for Trump, but I can also sit back and take questions like this and kind of, I don't want to say have fun with it, but just give you my perspective and give you my opinion. So this is my opinion on that. I was talking with a friend of mine last night who was in defense contracting, right? He does a lot of things. There is Doge, number one. You got to look at the mission of Doge, which is going to be wasteful spending. So they're going to take their wasteful spending and they're going to do wasteful spending things. And it's not just wasteful spending. Truthfully, it's a lot of like, we look at it and we call it wasteful spending, but like those circumcisions and all that other crap, those are all things that I don't think our lawmakers were sitting in Washington, D.C. and said, you know what, I really feel like the American people would care for is X, Y, and Z. What that is those are kickbacks for people getting votes and donations and things like that, right? They're buying them off with government money. And so that's why it's important for Doge to cut that out. When we turn and we look at Ukraine, there's two really important things. And I've said this before. I think if we are going to be doing that the U.S. needs to identify its national security objectives. Right? If we're going to be doing these things, if we're going to be funding and supporting other countries, there needs to be national security objectives. And I do believe that there is important national security objectives over there. Okay. Number two, when it goes into it, we have been fighting a global war on terror for the last 20 plus years. 20 plus years we've been fighting this global war on terror. Now, I will tell you that, and I know this personally from working as an advisor for a particular company that was trying to get weapons and equipment into Ukraine, selling it to Ukraine. Ukraine has been used as a proving ground. This is the first conventional warfare. Now, hear me out. This gentleman gave me a different perspective on it. Okay. This gentleman gave me a different perspective last night, and he's a really intelligent individual. He was a Delta Force operator. He was a Green Beret. He has done amazing things. He is a war vet. He's got time in the infantry and stuff like that, just like I do. And what he explained, I thought was really interesting. This is the first time that we have had the chance to pit ourselves up against the Russians. We are legitimately giving Ukraine equipment, and we get it battlefield tested against the Russians. Why is that important? Putin is moving towards trying to disable the West. That's what he's doing. He wants to dismantle us. It's true. And he's not doing it from a military perspective, but he is doing it from a socioeconomic perspective. He is going after the US dollar. That's BRICS in a nutshell. China, Russia, they're all coming after us. Like the Suez Canal, Egypt is a portion of BRICS. I forget what the actual figure is, but I think it's something like 70% of the world's oil passes through the Suez Canal. And so if you were to take that and you were to say, okay, everything going through the Suez Canal, it now has to be, done in frickin' BRICS money. Like all of this crap coming through the Suez Canal has to be in BRICS money, no longer US dollar. Well, guess what? That would do to the US dollar. Like you said, we're 36 trillion. I've seen 39 trillion. I've seen 40 sometimes. It's all these random estimates for where we're at. But that dollar is very unstable. Look what happened under Joe Biden and where our inflation started to skyrocket and go through the roof. So just how we defeated the Soviet Union in the Cold War, their economy collapsed. Their whole country collapsed. And so if BRICS, like in Russia, knows if they were to go toe-to-toe with the U.S. military, it's not going to turn out good for them. Right? They know that. So they're going to go after the US dollar and try to collapse us. However, there is also the possibility that we do get sucked into a war with Russia because of that. It might not be inside of Ukraine. It might be over in the Middle East. It might be somewhere else. It could be like God only knows. But either way, this is a very good opportunity for the US to test its military equipment. That, my friend, in the event of that war, which seems more and more probable every day, to be perfectly honest with you, not because we want to do it, but because Russia is freaking mad, is going to save tens of thousands of American lives. And you don't get to put a dollar amount on that. At the same time, okay, by doing that and explaining where that dollar is at, if Russia ends up taking over Ukraine, if they end up coming out with victors on top of this, and I'm going to get back to the remainder of your question, if Russia ends up coming out and being victors on top of this, it is going to give them more credibility on the international stage to go after things like I just explained, to actually attack the US dollar. More countries are going to back them and get behind them because Russia is essentially like, how do I want to say this? Russia would essentially be like invincible. Like people would look at that and they would go with it. Look at what's happening over and people in the comment section are going to tell me I'm crazy. I see somebody says, no, your info is so far off. No, you're way off. China is like the little people behind that are pulling the strings. But information is so important these days. Knowledge is power. It really is. And controlling the narrative is also power. And I want you to think about this as well. If you go over and you look at what's taking place inside Gaza and you look at the amount of people over here in the United States of America that are all freaking nuts, right? The amount of misinformation, like that little fat kid that I just showed, that's like pushing this crap, and people get a hold of that information. They think that it's going to be absolutely atrocious when Israel ends up going in there, that they're going to do all of that crap. And I agree with you, Martin, where you say America is nothing without Europe. I agree with that statement. I think America is nothing without all of the allies that we have. The amount of trade and things like that we have. And this is the great thing. Like, just because, hear me out here, just because you vote for somebody doesn't mean that you agree with 100% of the things that they say. Just because you vote for somebody doesn't mean that you agree with 100% of the things that they say. Trump likes red flag laws. I don't. I think red flag laws suck. I also think the biggest threat to our national security, contrary to Douglas McGregor, who we're going to touch on in a second, is the conflict over in the Middle East, right? There is a new Sunni Islamic caliphate that they're about to start bring up, and that's ISIS. All right, that is ISIS rebranded. That's taking place over inside Syria right now. There's a mass genocide and everything else. That's really important. Those people are going to be able to get over here to the United States, but even more so, out there over inside of Syria, dude, Syria was mass producing chemical weapons. And do you know who was doing that for Syria? Hezbollah and the IRGC. Now, Israel did their best to blow up all of those chemical weapons depots and things like that when the Assad regime fell a couple of weeks ago, but there's still more. And if this new rebranded ISIS, which, oh, by the way, rumor is they're going around freeing ISIS fighters from prison. If they get a hold of those chemical weapons, ladies and gentlemen, they're not going to hesitate to use them on Europe. They're not going to hesitate to use them on frickin' like the United States of America or on any of our allies or anything of that nature. So we need to make damn sure that that's taken care of. That's why my vote went to Trump. Not because I agree with him on red flag laws, not because I believe with him on his stance on Ukraine, but because that's what me, as a voter, viewed as the most existential threat. And I think Trump has a great understanding on the Middle East, and he's going to deal with it appropriately. And from what I've seen, I'm correct. Also, when we look at it, right, and like, hey, I voted for Trump as well, and I told everybody on this channel that when he gets into office, he is going to get intel briefs, and those intel briefs are going to drive his decision-making process. Trump also wanted to end the war in Ukraine. Trump also wanted to end spending in Ukraine. He didn't want to have all of that spending in Ukraine. He didn't. He thought it was a waste. But notice how his narrative changed when he got in office, and notice how every single politician that tends to happen. They want to say, like, how many politicians did we hear say they were going to end the war in Afghanistan? How many politicians did we hear say they are going to end the wars in Iraq? How many? A lot. And yet when they get into office, it never changed. It just continued on. They would lie to the American population. I was in Iraq. I was on a small frickin' kill team. I remember getting done with it when I get back to the frickin' base and I hear Obama saying that the last combat troops have left Iraq. And Matt was out on a small kill team. The last combat units are out of Iraq, and Matt was out on a small kill team trying to take out people shooting rockets at the base. So I'm sorry, all politicians lie. But they do it, in my opinion, most of the time. I do believe with Obama, he did it for the greater good. Reading Rambo says, my niece just enlisted yesterday into the National Guard. Her swearing in didn't mention the Constitution, but those joining the non-National Guard did include it. You know, that's really interesting because somebody talked to me last night reading Rambo and said that that was also out, and they sent me a recording of them doing it, and they sent it to me over on Discord. And so I'm going to actually take that video, publish it, and call it out today. It's probably going to be a really big thing. It's really troubling that that's not in there. Like, that blows my mind. It's nuts to me. I'm going to get back to reading this, okay? Because so that's that part. That's why we could support Doge and at the same time be willing to support Ukraine, because I do believe it's a threat to U.S. national security on the dollar level. Ladies and gentlemen, our dollar is so fragile. If that sucker collapses, that's where it's going to go. So this message continues. And I didn't even bother reading the whole thing. I just wanted to kind of address it naturally as it goes. How much would sending even a division to Ukraine cost for 6 months? 10 billion, 20 billion. We have already been sending rotations through Poland, and my old brigade combat team was sent there last year. How much does it cost to send a BCT worth of equipment around the world? Fund the troops there and then send them back. If we did send troops to Ukraine, how long are they going to be there? 5 years, 10 years, 5 decades? Congrats. We just got into another country that isn't going to pay to defend themselves because U.S. troops are there. Let's address this comment now, right? There's a lot to digest in there, and we can go over that. It's actually quite simple. So when you're sending U.S. troops into another country, there's a lot of different things that take place. All right. So let's talk about how much money it does cost now based on some of the things I just talked about. Number one, United States government, I'm sure everybody is aware, is collecting a hell of a lot of intelligence on Russia, on Ukraine, on the surrounding areas. Here's just a secret, right? If we're going somewhere, we're also doing other things, right? Like that is the government in a nutshell for you, right? Where do you think Russian spies here in the United States operate out of? They operate out of Russian embassies. That's just what they do, right? That's how they work. So when you have military troops in other countries, you have all sorts of different things that are being done and being collected. You also have foreign relations that are being built. You have foreign relations with Poland that are being built. You have foreign relations with the NATO troops on the ground that are being built. You have all of these different things that are taking place. And prior to 2022, contrary to popular belief, we also had a presence inside of Ukraine. It would have blown your freaking mind to actually know that. We had boots on the ground inside of Ukraine, and not just special operations troops, but also conventional troops on the ground inside of Ukraine, doing exactly the type of work that they're doing over inside of Poland right now. Why is that important to understand? Because that took place not just under Obama, but also under Trump's presidency. I don't know if you knew that or not. So Trump was supporting this all the way back then. It just so happens to know that you were unaware of that. If you didn't know that, you were maybe unaware of that. Now, that is a buttload of money that goes into it. You're absolutely correct. But when we talk about the amount of money that's going to be saved in the event that that happens, that's where it's going. And we have more than enough money in our defense budget to make sure that that's taken care of. That's not something that's unheard of for the Department of Defense to be able to do. So while it is money, excuse me, I almost missed the part. You asked about U.S. troops going into Ukraine. Now, if you're talking about them going into Ukraine as a combat role, that's just not something Trump's going to do unless it's absolutely necessary. And so people that are looking at this and saying, nope, this is freaking batshit. He's doing X, Y, and Z, and he's going to, no, he's not. Right. And just like I told you guys last week when the intel and the supplies and everything else got cut off, I said, give it a little bit of time. And then what do you know happened yesterday? Supplies ended up getting turned back on for Ukraine. Intel sharing turned back on for Ukraine. And all of these things are happening. Why? Because there's some stuff that happens behind the scenes. There's what you see, there's what you're made aware of, and there's what's actually happening. And what you got a taste of this last week is exactly that. You got a taste of what's actually happening. So I know one thing is absolutely for certain, is that Trump is not an idiot. He might seem like it sometimes, but he's not an idiot. All right. That's why so much has actually been getting done. That's why Ukraine's like, yeah, we'll do a 30-day ceasefire. And then Russia freaking, goes and attacks Odessa. There is a reason why he's doing what he's doing. He's smart enough to know that he doesn't know all the answers, but he does listen to people that do. Somebody once told me that leadership is nothing more than talent management. And ever since I heard that, he's a really, really smart human being. His name was Evan Bjorn. Love him to death. He's gone now. Leadership is nothing more than talent management. And what Trump is very good at is talent management and taking those appropriate people and putting them in the appropriate places. That's why you're seeing the results that you're getting on a lot of things. As a matter of fact, the economy is doing better here in the United States. Yesterday, he was talking about, he got questioned by reporters, and we'll play a clip of that here in a sec, because people were going around and targeting Tesla Cybertrucks and Tesla vehicles. Because Elon Musk is like Doge is the devil now. All of these liberals used to love Elon for, his love of EVs and getting things out. But when they end up finding out that Elon now is with Trump and Trump is bad, orange man bad, well, shit, time to go after his friends, right? So I introduced to you this.
around the country ever since the end of January, including here in Colorado, where this Tesla storefront was vandalized multiple times with Molotov cocktails and anti-Elon Musk graffiti. Lucy Grace Nelson, a transgender woman, now faces federal and state charges for the Colorado incidents. Dealers in some cities are also being protested. 9 arrested at this one in New York. President Trump offered his support to Musk at a White House event yesterday and agreed when asked if these attacks should be labeled domestic terrorism.
I just want to thank the president for his support. This means a lot. And also thank everyone out there who is supporting Tesla. It's really terrible that there's so much violence being perpetrated against people like Tesla, Tesla supporters, Tesla owners, Tesla stores. These are innocent people who've done nothing wrong.
Dana, Musk also says he plans to double output of Teslas in the United States over the next 2 years. So he's not stopping.
Okay, Alicia, thank you.
Charlie Hurt with us now.
So I see your comment down there about volume blowing out speakers, and I'm trying to balance it out from you guys on the other side. Part of it is because I'm talking a little bit quieter today. I think I'm going to end up moving up my threshold so that I'm a little bit louder, so that when those vehicles end up hitting, because there is a threshold, a decibel level that I don't let that stuff go past. So maybe I'll adjust the decibel level on my side and like I kind of get that up there for you guys. But look, here's the end of the day. Over outside of the White House yesterday, Trump was asked whether or not he's going to be, doing anything about all of these cyber trucks and everything else. Yeah, hey, he's not wrong. It is domestic terrorism, right? Using fear, intimidation, coercion, or control to push a political or ideological agenda, right? And what they are doing by going against Tesla is they are 100% doing it for political and ideological reasons. They're doing it for political reasons because they don't like what he's doing overseas, and they're doing it for ideological reasons when you start looking at things like Gaza, Palestine, and all that other crap, right? So these are all of the same people that are freaking out there and doing this crap. So yes, it is domestic terrorism. They are attacking Tesla. They are doing that to deter people from supporting him. It fits the definition of domestic terrorism. Free speech stops, right? No right is absolute. And this is going to bother people. Like, I can't come on here and threaten and incite people to go after and take out Donald Trump. I can't do that. That's not free speech. In the same way, these people cannot show up and incite violence at certain locations. That's not free speech either. And you should be arrested for that. If you want that, go live somewhere else. That's not how America works. That's exactly the same reason why I have to file to get a freaking permit, as long as you don't live in Texas, constitutional carry. That I have to go file to get a permit, that I have to get a background check when I buy a firearm, that in order to do certain things, like you have to have, if I want to go fishing, I have to get a license, which isn't guaranteed by the Constitution, but it's whatever, right? You see, like, there is different things, right? Fourth Amendment says police officers have to get a warrant. Supreme Court says, no, there's a such thing as a warrantless search, and there's certain situations in which that applies. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So you don't just get to like say that, hey, this stuff, because of where it's at, is unconstitutional. If that's the case, you need to go study constitutional law. And if you want that changed, if you want the Constitution, you want the constitutional law changed, then get the appropriate votes and do the appropriate work. Stop trying to change things that shouldn't be changed, because while it's not perfect, nothing ever will be. It's one of those, don't fix it if it ain't broke. And it's not broke. We just need to use things appropriately. Now, here's your next clip.
Overnight have this post claiming that protests at Tesla dealerships are illegal. He said today he would label violence against dealerships domestic terrorism. Now, you know I am judicious in how I play this sound, but I think you need to hear it from him.
Mr. President talks about some of the violence that's been going on around the country at dealerships. Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company. Let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're going to catch you and you're going to go through hell.
So just to be clear, you protest a private company, you are labeled by this administration a domestic terrorist, but then you also...
Correct. And what's funny is that there's people that are complaining about this stuff. And so again, while I don't agree with all of Trump's decisions, I absolutely, and I mean absolutely, can get behind it. 100%. 100% I can get behind it without, beyond the shadow of a doubt. I can absolutely get behind it. And for those of you that are saying he's doing a bad job here at the United States, that these tariffs are causing issues, that he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Finally, we have some good news on the economy and really the number one issue for many Americans, the cost of living. So we just learned that consumer prices in February increased by 2.8% year over year, 0.2% month over month. Both of these figures were a step in the right direction, and both were better than expected. So this is definitely very encouraging to see, because it's going to, I think, relieve some fears that inflation was perhaps re-accelerating, because this actually breaks a streak of 4 straight months where I think you could see it on the chart all the way to the right, where the inflation rate was going in the wrong direction, right? It was going higher and higher. Finally, we're seeing it dip.
I don't know if you guys caught that, but inflation's on its way down. If we were to take it over here to the end of this clip, right here, you can see that. It's on its way down, right? So we're actually going down. And look at this crap. This is under Biden and everything else. And then it kind of, thank God it went down, right? But it still remained pretty high. And then it dipped a little bit. And then it started going back up again under Biden as he started to throw everything against the wall to see what could stick. Alleyway June, genuine question. Is January 6th considered domestic terrorism? Yeah, I believe it was. I believe it was. And we spent an entire stream going over this. One day last year, where people were like, hey, it's a violent insurrection. I was like, you know what? I've never looked into that before. And so what I did was I sat there and I pulled clip after clip after clip after clip from January 6th. And we ended up taking that and putting it up on the stream, going over the legal definitions and talking about exactly what it was. And as it turns out, yes, there was a lot of people, once they got in the building, that were walking around non-violent. And this is what pisses me off, is we had news stations that is the only thing that they were showing. But guess what else we found? We found other videos outside of people actually being freaking violent, like being violent towards the law enforcement officers, throwing stuff at them, hitting them, fighting them. All of that stuff was also taking place. So when you ask if it's domestic terrorism, yes, there were people, in my opinion, conducting domestic terrorism. Because again, fear, intimidation, coercion, control to push a political or ideological agenda. And that's exactly what was happening. We had people doing that on January 6th outside. So those people 100% were doing it, but it wasn't the vast majority. But to say it wasn't taking place is also extremely dishonest. Extremely dishonest. There was violence taking place, and they were doing it for political reasons to instill fear. Correct. Was it an insurrection? I don't believe it was. Were most of the people peaceful? 100%. I think most of the people were peaceful. But was there people conducting domestic terrorism? Yes, there were. That's my take on it. I do believe in this statement that two things can be true at the same time. And, oh man, I don't even want to, I'm going to save this clip for the end because I think that's where that kind of needs to be. Now let's talk about what ended up happening overseas. The captain of a Portuguese flag cargo ship, all right, marine vessel Solong, which had collided yesterday with a U.S. flag petroleum tanker, the Stena Immaculate. And that was anchored over in the North Sea off of the coast of England. A Russia national, along with some of the crew, has been arrested by British authorities on suspicion of manslaughter. The Stena Immaculate was transporting Jet A1 fuel for the U.S. Department of Defense when it was T-boned by the Solong, who was, from what I've read so far, being captained by a Russian. The captain of the ship that rammed the ship that was carrying U.S. supplies allegedly was a Russian national. And a lot of the crew were Russian nationals on that Russian captained ship, along with, I believe it was like some Portuguese. I forget what country they were from. It doesn't matter. But there was a lot of Russian crew members as well. Now, if you're familiar with what Russia does here, and let me just put this up on the screen because this is important.
A little bit of breaking news on that maritime collision on Monday in the North Sea off the coast of Yorkshire. And it's being reported that the Solong ship, which was, of course, the one that was moving and crashed into the stationary Stena Immaculate, that the master of that ship is a Russian national, that the rest of the crew were Russian and also Filipino. That's being reported in just the last few moments.
Okay, so this is why this matters. And let me get to a nice view of this ship. And look at how jacked up this thing is. Look at the fire. And again, people died. Right? Now, these are U.S. military supplies that undoubtedly would go over to either, fund NATO, go towards NATO, go towards the U.S. military, go towards all of these other things. And for those that don't know, Russia, all right, and China now have been using civilian merchant vessels to go over and cut cables and to do all sorts of jacked up stuff. We had the last year in the United States of America a couple incidents that people looked at and were like, meh, when we had massive ships colliding with freaking bridges. It happened in Baltimore, and it happened in Baltimore, Maryland, and it happened in Galveston, Texas. I think all within a week to 2 weeks. It is a massive problem, ladies and gentlemen. Now, why do they do this versus target it militarily? Because when you're conducting operations like this, if a military was to do it, then it would clearly be an act of war. It would be a crime. It would be all of those things. But when you take a captain of a merchant vessel, you pay his ass off, you pay his family off, or you take his family hostage, and you tell them that they got to do X, Y, and Z, now you can do stuff like this. And we are seeing more and more and more of this. Last year, inside of the United States of America, at the ammunition plant inside of Scranton, PA, we had a mysterious fire that took place. Now, that plant was the only one at the time that was up and operational and providing 155 shells for Ukraine. Less than a week later, the same thing happened over in the EU. We also saw multiple, I think it was like 11 FSB agents get arrested inside of Poland. All right. The person who blew up the frickin' pipeline at the beginning of the Russian-Ukraine war ended up being, having a Ukrainian passport. But that doesn't mean that he was on Ukraine's side. The FSB is deep within side of Ukraine, and that is this corruption that everybody's talking about, this corruption that everybody complains about inside of Ukraine. Most of that's like the FSB. Most of that is like freaking Russian intel assets that are doing those things at all of these different levels. And and here's the other thing that really pisses me off. A lot of people will sit here and they'll be like, Ukraine is corrupt. We shouldn't be giving money to them. Pot, this is kettle. Come in. You're black. Dude, the United States government is so crooked. We just happen to do it in different ways. The difference is over in Ukraine, when they find those people, they'll drag them out back and shoot them. Over here, we'll drag them through democracy. And if you don't believe me, we can pull up video after video after video of the SBU guys over inside of Ukraine arresting these people, finding them with stashes of freaking cash, finding them with all this crap. And when they catch them, dude, they go to town. When my friends and I, when we stood up the nonprofit organization inside of Ukraine, and we were building houses for women and children, and attaching them to villages and all other stuff. And there's a lot of money that goes into that. The Ukrainian military officer that I was working with, when we were on our drive back to the border, I told him, I was like, dude, this is for women and children. And you don't get, I swear to you, if somebody starts stealing money from women and kids, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to kill them myself. And he says, Matt, if I find that's happening, I'm going to hold on to him for you. And then you can come back and we can do it together. These people are so sick of the corruption inside of their country because that type of stuff is what led to Maidan. That type of stuff is what led to this war. They don't like it. They rebelled against it. They went up against it. And now we're in this massive war and Russia's pissed off because they got rooted out of Ukraine and they got taken out of power. They don't like that corruption and they're trying to clean it out, but it takes time. Just like inside of the United States government, where we've got Doge and all of these people that are like pushing and pushing and pushing to make it happen, to get rid of it, that's important. And I'm telling you right now, when you go and you pull support from Ukraine, you're giving that country over to Russia. That's what's going to happen. The Ukrainian people won't give up. They will continue to fight. They're going to do what Ukrainian people do best. But if you pull the support from that country, that is exactly what's going to happen. So you can't do it. And this, ladies and gentlemen, this right here is the start of Russia coming after the United States of America. I do believe what happened in Scranton, PA last year with the ammo plant and some of the ones over in the EU, not to mention they had pipe bombs and several other freaking threats that were taking place. I do believe that all of that stuff as well, all right, all of that stuff as well was the result of Russia doing sabotage operations. So no, I don't think it's the right thing to do to completely and totally cut off supplies to Ukraine. And if you want to save money on it, if you're worried about money and you want to save money on it, the proper way to do it is if we would have taken what we have given Ukraine just over the last 2 years and provided 60% of that up front in one lump sum. Here's everything you need. Here is our objectives that we expect you to meet. You meet these objectives, you push them back past this, and we're done. We're happy at that point. And if you want to keep going, that's on you. But at that point, we're willing to then come in and start negotiating, or we'll negotiate before that as you're pushing back. This war would have been over years ago. Years ago. There is something to be said about overwhelming violence up front, proper funding. You can't expect people to fight a war without knowing what's coming up next. Supply and logistics drive warfare. And when you don't know what supplies or logistics you have coming, you can't properly plan and execute a war. That's how that works. It's insane to me that people can't actually wrap their heads around that, and it's happening. Same time, as I talk about that and I speak the truth about that, I want to jump on something else. I haven't done a good enough job, in my opinion, explaining the history of what's happening over inside of Israel.
All Arab states brought their armies to the borders of Palestine. $50 million Arabs declared a holy war against 600,000.
When Israel was established in 1948, this is what took place. All of the surrounding Arab countries declared a holy war on them. There's a book that everybody in this country should be reading that's concerned with this conflict. It's called Everything You Need to Know About the Middle East. Go find it. Read it.
Jews. Syria sent half its army to battle. In the Golan Heights, the Syrian command planned the conquest of Galilee. At the same time, an Iraqi column advanced towards Palestine through Transjordan. On May the 11th, King Farouk of Egypt ordered his army to move eastward. The Egyptian Minister of War told his king, "This will not be a war with the Jews. It will be a parade." Within 2
It will not be a war with the Jews. It will be a plague. Now, Israel has been dealing with this since its inception all the way back in 1948, and it continues on to this day. And the reason they're doing it, whether you like it or not, is for religious ideological beliefs. And they're using fear, intimidation, coercion, and control in order to push that religious and political ideological belief. That is the definition of terrorism. It doesn't matter if it's being done by a nation, and it doesn't matter if it's being done by a group of individuals. That's why we have state sponsors of terror, so on and so forth. But this is what they've been dealing with since the dawn of time. Literally. And so, as an American, if you sit back and you're going against this, and you're sit back and you're going against Israel, just know that you are in fact supporting terrorism. Hezbollah, largest non-state terror organization in the world, which is backed by the largest state-funded, like they are the largest state-funded terror organization in the world, and the largest state that funds terrorism is Iran. So they're backed by both of those things, and they're sitting on Israel's northern border inside Lebanon. The international community is trying to tell Israel, don't worry about it. We're going to negotiate a deal on that. over inside of Syria. Let's back this map up. Not much has changed, right? This is an old map. This right here is an old map. So notice this area coming down from Lebanon, still pushing in on them. Still the exact same thing is taking place to this day. This is where Hezbollah is coming at from. HTS, who just overthrew the Syrian government and is now de facto leadership, is going to and wants to and is currently ethnically cleansing people inside of Syria to establish a Sunni Islamic caliphate. That's what their goal is. That's what Jelani's stated goal has been since, I think, 2014. For the last decade. And you put a suit and tie on him, you think he's going to change, you're wrong. He played nice for a little bit, and now we see the ethnic cleansing coming out. Israel pushed in over into southern Syria to help people that were about to be cleansed. Additionally, it creates a nice buffer zone so that history doesn't repeat itself, because if you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat the same mistakes. Egypt, down on the southern border of Israel. Egypt, down on the southern border of Israel, has tanks and all sorts of armor and equipment and shit stacked up outside of there. This border with Gaza that Egypt shares, known as the Rafah crossing or the Philadelphia corridor, that crossing itself is where tons of weapons and equipment were pouring across, and Egypt has a presence right on the border. They were literally allowing these things to happen, whether it was corruption or whether the military was okay with it. It was happening. Iran was literally doing dead drops in the sea. Hamas had a dive organization that would go out and recover the different weapons and equipment that Iran would drop off for them. All of that crap combined is what led to their ability to conduct the attack on October 7th. And you would be a damn fool if that was happening on your border to allow it to persist anymore. Jordan's changed its ways. Great. Good stuff. That's why when I was showing the Typhoons yesterday, they were flying over Israeli and Jordanian airspace, and they were going from there. Jordan also shot down some ballistic missiles and things like that that were being shot by Iran during the first and second attack. This is a very serious problem, and people are looking at it as if Israel is some sort of an aggressor, some sort of an occupier, some sort of something, and it's just false. Cody Stout, if you want to stand out front of an establishment with a frickin' sign, feel free. These people in the news need to stop trying to pass actual marauding as protesting. They should be in jail. Correct. And that's where everybody got sick about the BLM protests. You're not protesting. You're rioting. You're throwing Molotov cocktails at federal agents. You're burning things to the ground. You are harming people. People were getting shot, stabbed, and beat because they showed up to protest BLM. And Americans were just sick of it. Just sick of it. So it's not one of those like, you are never going to convince me things, but if you're going to be peaceful, be peaceful. There was a really famous video, and I have to go find it. I reviewed it a little while ago, where people had taken these guys that were like with the KKK, and I hate them. I'm not a fan of the KKK. I am also not a fan of pedophiles. Matt's personal belief is they should be drug out back and shot. I think it's a mental illness. All racists have a mental illness, in my opinion. And oh, by the way, when we start talking about Gaza, Palestine, and all that crap, and how they hate the Jews, how they idolize Hitler, that is a mental illness. You hate Nazis here in the United States, but you support Palestine and Palestinians, which isn't even a real thing, by the way. You support the people in Gaza who idolize Adolf Hitler, and yet you're going to call Trump a Nazi, and you're going to hate him for what he's doing, while the same people that you support read Mein Kampf and teach it to their kids. It's absurd to me how much gaslighting has taken place. Incog Faraday coming and gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you, brother. It's nuts. It's so nuts to the point that things like this, people call it Zionist propaganda. This is a little girl. And I was reporting on something like this back during the beginning of the war. I was reporting on this back then. There was a little kid that walked up to IDF soldiers as they were pushing down along the Mediterranean Sea from the north into Gaza. Now, this little girl talking to the IDF soldiers told her that she needed to go up and approach the IDF soldiers. They thought they would shoot her. She didn't know that. And it's the same exact storyline that took place well over a year ago. Now, when the IDF was pushing down the coastline and they came across a young child that just got told to walk towards the IDF. And instead of the kid being shot, you end up getting body cam video or helmet cam video of the IDF treating this little girl's feet and taking care of her and returning her to where she belongs. And I can show you video after video of that, picture after picture of that happening. Was it a little boy? I'm sorry. To where the Israelis are taking care of them, where they do that. Maya, listener of the channel, good friend of mine now, awesome human being. She told me when she had first joined the IDF that they would go up outside of the Golan Heights over towards Syria and they would literally sit on the border and they would treat people from that ongoing freaking civil war that was taking place that's now turned into a genocide and soon to be the new ISIS. And they would just sit there and treat people. You understand that? These are Arabs, Druze, Muslims, Christians, sometimes. As Israelis, as Jewish people. She's Jewish, and she was doing that. I am missing the part where Palestinians are even taking care of their own people. I am missing the part where Hamas allowed them to get into the tunnels to shield them from all of the bombing. It just doesn't exist. So that is kind of annoying to me. And then when I show you pictures like this that are coming out of Jenin of some of the things that they're finding over there, this isn't Zionist propaganda. These are tools of the trade that you end up seeing. These jugs get packed with homemade explosives. These propane canisters get packed with homemade explosives, and they rig them to blow, and they put them out there. And if they kill IDF, great. If some of their people die along the way, that's okay too, because they become martyrs. And oh, by the way, it's Ramadan. So if they're martyrs during Ramadan, they get a higher place in heaven. They get a greater reward. So they do crazier and crazier stuff to make it happen. They don't care. And right now, during Ramadan, if the IDF ends up pushing into Gaza, all hell's going to break loose. I would venture to say that when Ramadan's over, that's when the IDF's going to go in. Theodore says, when will Damascus fall? On the 14th, the moon will turn red. Will these line up and fulfill the prophecy? I don't know. Do I think Damascus is going to fall? I don't know. But what I do know is that there's a lot of genocide taking place. And what I do know is that you have tons of Arabs from the north that are backing Jolani. But we also have people like Hezbollah that's fighting against Jolani and his men as well. I showed videos of them clashing on the border yesterday. It's a problem. If Turkey ends up joining in on this, if Turkey for some reason, doesn't get kicked out of NATO and wants to continue to play games, that's what it is. And ladies and gentlemen, this is my reminder for you. If you're brand new and you're watching this, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notification bell. Only about 10% of y'all have your notification bells turned on. Turn that sucker on. 5 p.m. today, I'm going to have a special broadcast for y'all. I'm going to bring on a special guest at 5 p.m. today. 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm bringing on a special guest. And that's not going to take away from the 9 p.m. broadcast that I'm going to do tonight. And we're going to talk about what's taking place here in the United States of America inside colleges, specifically with what's going on. This person has been seen on Fox News. They've been seen on all over the place. They're going to be on here. So I'm going to take some of these interviews and I'm going to start bringing them in. This person's coming on the show today, and we're going to have a lovely, wonderful discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, this stuff is seriously important to me. It's important to me that this information gets out there, and it's important to me that you know where you're getting your information from. If you're getting it from this guy, whoa, there we go. If you're getting it from this guy right here, Douglas McGregor, you're getting bad information. This guy's got more things wrong than I've ever seen in my life. And every now and then he'll get something right. Do your due diligence. Everything that I've told you today, everything I've talked about today, everything I've explained to you today, I want you to take that information and I want you to verify it and I want you to vet it and I want you to draw your own conclusion. That's my goal for everybody on this channel, to be critical thinkers, to be able to access that type of stuff, to be able to look at it and figure it out. It's not even worth playing the crap that he's about to spew about Mexico and so on and so forth. It's not worth it. It is not my actor bestie. It is not my actor bestie, Wayne. Thank you, sir, for asking that question. It is not my actor bestie. I'm glad you guys figured that out. Somebody follows me on IG, huh? It is not her. It's somebody else. This is somebody that is in tune with that environment. All right. So good luck figuring it out. When you guys see the thumbnail drop, make sure your notifications are turned on. Make sure all that stuff's done. I have some personal stuff that I have to take care of this morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I have to take off. I love you guys. I appreciate every single one of you. All right. I do. You guys have turned this channel into something amazing. If you haven't become a true supporter, you need to do it because we have done some amazing stuff. Talk to the people in the comment section. Talk to the people in the chat. Come back. Check out the broadcast again. You guys are going to love it. All right. Scott Ritter on tonight. No, Scott Ritter is not coming on this show. Absolutely. If Scott Ritter comes on the show, it's a debate. And I've already challenged him to a debate and he turns it down. He has turned it down. He turns it down because he'll get destroyed because facts are going to trump whatever crap he has every single time. Ladies and gentlemen,